Hello all, today let us see tuples in Python. But before that, let us understand what is mutables and immutables in Python. An object once created whose value can be changed is known as mutable. So after creating an object, if its value can be changed, then it is known as a mutable object. An immutable object is one whose value cannot be changed once it is created. Let us understand this with an example. So here I am assigning, so I have an integer variable over here. I am assigning some value to it. And here ID returns the address of an object in Python. Okay, so it is a unique value that is assigned with every variable that is being created. And in case of Python, it is the address of the object. So the address of hey, what we are getting is this. Now here we are reassigning a equal to 6. Okay, we are assigning a as 6 again. Now if we see the address of a, it is a different one, which means that when we reassign a which sits over here, what it is doing is it is creating a new variable over there. So here what is happening is, here we had this is pointing here, its name is a, and its value is 5. Okay, now when we do this operation a equal to 6, what happens is it creates another location. Okay, another location is being created, and it is assigned the value 6, and the name of this location is also a. Okay, so this is what happens. So which means that a is means integer is immutable in case of Python. Now let us check with strings what happens. Okay, so here we have a string s1, and which is having the value Python, and its ID is this. So here string is created. So we have Python over here. So the starting cat. So we have Python over here, and this is its address. Now we reassign. Here what we are doing is we are reassigning this one, and here we get a different address. So what happens here is it creates another memory location which is named as s1, and this is the address of that. So this initial memory location is also s1, and this is also referred to as s1. So once we refer to s1, but it will refer to the latest s1 that is being created. So here in Python again, strings are immutable. Okay, so integers, strings, floats, etc., all of them are immutable in case of Python. Now let us see the case of a list in Python. In the last class, means I told that lists are mutable in Python. So let us understand what it is. So here list is created, and we got the ID as this thing. Okay, so this is the first element in the list. So that is a string, not that this is a string. Okay, now I am changing the list. Okay, I am appending some value yellow to the list. So now in the list I have another value, so that means the list is changed. Okay, now let me check the ID of list again. See, it remains the same. If you see here the ID was this one, and here also it's the same. So even though the list is changed, the ID remains the same. Okay, and now let me check the ID of the first element in the list. It remains the same because we didn't change anything over there, right? But suppose I am changing the first element in the list. Okay, equal to say ABC. Now colors will be this. We change the first element in the list. Now let me check the ID of the list again. I'm checking the ID of list again. The ID of list remains same. That is, the list is changed. Okay, the list is changed, but its address remains the same. That's why we mentioned that lists are with lists can be changed once it is created. That is why lists are known as mutable objects. Okay. Now, if I check the ID of colors of zero, this is the ID. Let us see what was the ID of colors of zero earlier. See, ID of colors of zero got changed because here we changed a string over there. So what happened is it created a new memory location and allocated this value over there. But in total, the starting address or the reference variable of the list, its ID remained the same. So lists are mutable. That's why the list was changed in its location itself. But since an element of the item in the list is changeable and that is not changeable, that was immutable, and when we changed it, it got reassigned a new address. So I hope mutability and immutability is clear. In case of immutability, we cannot change the value that is assigned to that memory location once it is created. In case of mutability, we can change the value in its place. Okay, so mutable objects are lists. We have sets, we have dictionaries, and otherwise most of the Python data types are immutable, like strings, int, tuples. Then we have float. All of them are immutable. Okay, now coming to tuple. Tuples are used to store multiple items in a single variable. It is same as list. It is a collection of Python objects separated by commas and placed inside a parenthesis. In case of list, it is square brackets. In case of tuples, it is a parenthesis and it is optional. It is not necessary that you have to give that parenthesis. And a tuple is a collection which is ordered and unchangeable. Okay, so it is ordered. Ordered, we know it is having the indexing part. That is why it is ordered. Unchangeable, because it is immutable. So once a tuple is created, we won't be able to change the tuple. So here we have numbers equal to 1, 2, 3. And let me just see, we got the tuple over here. So even though I didn't give the parenthesis over here, once we printed, the parenthesis came. Okay, so the parenthesis is optional. So even though we don't give the parenthesis over there, it is considered as a tuple, but it has to be enclosed within, means it has to be, items has to be separated on the basis of comma. And here we have another tuple. So once we print it, so this is it. Indexing is tuple is same as that of list and string. So it starts with index 0. So for even numbers, 1 and 0's index is 2. So this is index 0, index 1, and this is index 2. Or this is index minus 1, this is index minus 2, and this is index minus 3. So even number of minus 1 is 6. It sits over here. Okay, and the first 0 is 2. Now updation in list and tuples. So this here we have a list over here, 246. Now if we want to change, we know that an element item in the list can be accessed using its index. So we have access the item and I am trying to change it over here. Okay, so I change. So the item at 0 got changed. So this is how we can update an element in a list. Okay, now when we, here we have even numbers. This is a tuple. This we have created earlier. Now I am trying to change the item at 0 over here. See, tuple object does not support item assignment because tuples are immutable. So it doesn't allow us to change once it is created. Okay. Now another example. Here we have a tuple with a list inside it. Okay. So we created a tuple. So element at index 0 is 4 and the element at index minus 2. Okay. See, this is minus 1, 11, and this is minus 2. I'm trying to change it because I thought, okay, it's a list, so I'll be able to change. No, it didn't allow me to change because it is, again, we are trying to change an item of tuple. Okay, this we are referring to an item of tuple, so it didn't allow us to change. Now, if you see this over here, I'm trying to change. Minus 2 is that is this list element we know, but once we get the list, lists are mutable, so we can change the individual items of the list. So that is what is happening over here. See, I now we could change it. Okay. So when we try to access the list as it is from the tuple, it didn't allow us to change. That is, the tuple will be having an address location which is referencing to the list. So once the tuple is created, we cannot change anything and assign to that address location. Okay. So what we did is we went into the list. We took each element of the list. List once created can be changed, right? So we didn't tamper with the initial address location of the list. What we did it, we accessed the individual elements of the list and we changed. Because it is mutable, it allowed us to change. Okay, so that is how mutability and immutability works. Now coming to operators in tuples, we have the concatenation operators. So we just trying to concatenate earlier tuples we created. So we could concatenate it. Numbers were, it was 1, 2, 3, and even numbers was 2, 4, 6. We could concatenate it. And now here there is a repetition operator. So it repeats the tuple here 5 times. Since I have given 5, it repeats it 5 times. So here, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, it is being repeated 5 times. Now, coming to tuple functions. So here we have the tuple numbers 1, 2, 3. Now, if you check the functions over here, only there are two functions over here, right? Because tuples are immutable, so we cannot perform any of the operations in tuple like append, insert, pop, remove. Nothing can't be done because the tuple once created, it cannot be changed. So tuple has only two functions associated with it. One is the count. So here I'll get the count of 1, which is only 1 because 1 is used only once. And here I'll get the index of 1, that is 0. But of course, len, that is the length function, and all works with tuple also. Okay. Now coming to tuple iterations, we can iterate to tuple using the usual method. So since it's a collection, so for number in number, so I'll be able to print. And using while loop also we can access, because individual element of tuple can be accessed using the indexes. So we iterate, means we keep on changing the index, and like that we can iterate to tuples. This also we have seen along with list. Okay. Now membership operators with list and tuples, we have seen the membership operators, that is in and not in, right? So list even, so this was the list we created. So 8 in list event, we are just checking if 8 is present in list event. Yes, it is there. So we got it true over there. Then this is the random tuple we had. So we are checking if sits is there in random tuple. Sits in random tuple. Here we will get true. We are checking if 2 is there in random tuple. Is 2 present in random tuple? It is false because 2 is there, but it is not the item of tuple, right? Item of tuple is this list 222, not an individual element 2, right? So this is a here we'll get false over here. But what we can do is we can check whether 2 in random tuple of -2. Here we are taking the list. Okay, now we are referring directly to the list. In that case, we got it as true. So that is the difference how you will, when you are checking the membership of a nested element in case of a tuple or list or whatever it is. Okay, now coming to packing and unpacking in tuples. So here what we can see, this is how we are creating a tuple. We are means I am having a variable tuple 1 over here, and as I am assigning 1 comma 2 comma 3 over here. Okay, so what we are getting 1 2 3. So what is happening is we are packing 3 numbers into a single variable. Okay, now here this we have already seen in the form of multiple variable assignment. What we are doing is a b c, we are giving 3 variables over here, and we are assigning the tuple 1 over here. Okay, so tuple 1 is having the values 1 2 3. So a gets the value of 1, b gets the value of 2, and c gets the value of 3. So once I run it, I'll get a as 1, b as 2, and c as 3. So this is known as unpacking. So what is happening is, here in the tuple 1 variable tuple 1, we had packed the 3 items to it. Now we are using individual variables to get these values of these items, and that's why it is known as unpacking. So we saw it already in the form of multiple variable assignment. So when to use list or tuple, so now it is very obvious, both the functionality of both are same, and the major difference is mutability and immutability, and that is making all the difference. So if you want to change a sequence after its creation, we have to go with list, and if you don't want to change a sequence after its creation, then we have to go with tuples. So today we saw what is mutability and immutability. Mutability is if we can change an object once it is created, it is known as mutable. If we cannot change an object once it is created, then it is known as immutable. In case of Python, all the all the data types like int, string, float, tuple, all of them are immutable, while list is mutable. List, sets, and dictionary are mutable. We can use id function to get the address of an object. And when we are changing, when we are checking also, since we can change a list, a list, and since it is mutable. But if you are trying to change an immutable item in the list, it won't be changed in that particular location. It will be created in a new location and it will be assigned there. So basically, the list is being changed, but the immutable item inside the list is not being changed. And now coming to tuples, it can store multiple items. It is created by enclosing the items in parentheses within parentheses, and by using comma as a separator. This parenthesis is optional. It is ordered but unchangeable. Indexing work in the usual way with tuples also. Index 0 means indexing starts at 0, and for negative indexing it starts at -1. Len can be used to find the length of a tuple. Then item assignment is not possible in case of a tuple, but in case of a list we can easily assign the items can be changed in case of a list and not in case of a tuple. Tuples also has the operators, concatenation operator, repetition operator, and everything. And tuples have only two functions associated with this, that is count and index. Counts give the number of times an element is repeated inside the tuple, and index gives the index of an element in tuple. We can iterate through the tuple using for loop and while loop, as we usually iterate to a sequence. Membership operators works with both list and tuples. And packing and unpacking, so using packing we can pack multiple elements into a single variable, and using unpacking we can unpack, we can take out each of the elements of that packed variable, from that packed variable into individual variables. And when we can use list, we use list when the sequence which need to be changed after creation, and if you want to restrict the change, then we have to go with tuple. That's all for today. Have a good day.